Yeah, so as I said, it'll be pretty low key. Just try to speak right into the mic if you can kind of pull that thing right up to you.
Right up? Okay.
Yeah, do what you got to do to
Got it.
adjust there.
Is that good?
Perfect.
Okay.
You're a natural. You got this. Right on. So let's do it.
Cool.
Naturally, I like to start things off at the beginning.
Okay.
So why don't you tell me where you were born and what life was like for you growing up?
Okay. So I was actually born in Dubai. I lived in Dubai until I was 6 years old, and my parents migrated here, and I've been here ever since. We actually lived and grew up in a different part of Mississauga.
Okay.
So it was basically down like Tompkin, Dundas area. So that is a very different area from like Georgetown. It was almost like kind of a city, but back then it was a little bit more tame.
Right.
Now
a lot
it's
of developments.
Yeah. It's very developed now. So then we moved out. I moved out to Georgetown 2.5 years ago.
Okay. Right on. So Mississauga up until that point?
I was in Milton briefly for a few years.
Okay.
But personally, Milton is very similar to Mississauga now. When I first moved there, actually, it was really rural. It was really quiet. It was really nice.
Right.
And I like that feel. Like, I love the small town feel. I love that for my kids. I feel like that's really crucial for them to just have you feel safe that they're playing outside on the street and people are not ripping up and down the streets.
Sure. Yeah.
So I feel like Georgetown definitely offers that. And I think the neighbors look out for the kids and stuff too. If you step inside for 2 seconds to go and get a bottle, you not have to take all of them in with you and come back out.
Right.
So, I love the feel here, and it's definitely.
Yeah, it's great. I like a lot more of a small town feel. I feel like a lot of people are kind of getting more and more pushed north.
I feel like we're going to see lots more development in Georgetown, though, because we're so close to the city. That's what tends to keep happening, is they just develop that same area until it's so overdeveloped, and then they branch out.
Right, yeah. Yeah, well, no, the same thing happened to my wife and I. We were renting in Milton, and then we were looking to buy, and we found we just got a bit more house for a buck up in Georgetown. Things were just exploding in Milton.
Yes,
same
absolutely.
thing. It was just we were looking for that feeling as well, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, very much the same.
It's definitely a good place to raise a family.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So in Dubai up until you were 6, you said?
Yes.
And so I guess you went to school there for a bit,
for 2 years basically. So I did kindergarten in Dubai. Different system, completely different. I wasn't here. Even in Catholic schools, we didn't have uniforms and stuff, which is different for me because over there it's all uniforms, very more strict and rigid and everything. I remember that part of it. Whereas here, it's definitely it's still the school system and they have their ecosystem, but they're definitely more open to different ideas and different concepts. So I like that. That was always because you're coming from a very specific religious-based country there, right? So
right. Okay.
Yeah, there's not as much openness there.
Right. Right. Fair enough. And then how were you in school? Were you studious? You did pretty well?
I've always been studious.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That was it was in my upbringing. My parents instilled that really, really early in age. My son, my oldest is 15, and he often jokes with me that I was a big nerd. And I'm I wasn't a nerd. I just took school seriously.
Right.
I'd appreciate you do that once in a while.
Yeah, sure.
But no, I was always studious. I still, enjoyed life and I did, some things, but my parents were very strict. So I didn't do anything wild, I guess.
Right.
I don't know what wild would look like, to be completely honest.
Okay, sure.
But I have no regrets. I lived my life and definitely enjoyed my teenage years. But I was also very mindful of, those years were crucial in creating the rest of my life. So just made sure I didn't completely mess up all those decisions.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
Throw them by the wayside and be like, oh, I'll figure that out later kind of thing. But so that was.
Yeah. Holy smoke. I could have probably used a few more people like you around me when I was a teenager. Not the best influences, but that's
I'm going to tell my son you said that.
Yeah.
Maybe get some brownie points.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so outside of school, what would the extracurriculars kind of been? Did you play sports at all, or just hanging out with friends kind of thing? Or?
Yeah, it was just friends, and I was very involved with the church.
Okay.
So I was part of the youth group, and then we did different things that community programs with the churches. One specifically, obviously the one that we went to religiously. So every weekend, my dad is very religious, so I grew up in a very religious household, learned how to pray and all that stuff. So very involved in the church from a very young age. So much so I used to altar serve every morning before I went to school.
Yeah. Okay. Right on.
I think they also kind of used church as like a daycare.
Yeah.
Like a before school program.
The kids and,
you go. We'd go to church. We'd altar serve, and then magically that also happened to be the time school started. So we'd walk across the parking lot, and we were there.
There you go. Easy transition.
Yeah. But they knew we were safe, and my dad was there, and he wanted to be in the church as well. So it worked out really well.
Yeah.
Definitely raised me in a way where I'm close to my faith. So that matters to me, and I raise my kids accordingly. So yeah.
Beautiful. And they're taking to it well as well. Like, are they?
Oh yeah. So they're all in Catholic school, and it's my own personal beliefs. Obviously, it's not anything I would try to project on anybody, but it helps me through my life.
Right.
I've had some, ups and downs, and definitely having faith has been something that allows me to kind of lean on it and get through.
Yeah.
And I've put that same thought into my kids. So it's not, it's sort of a choice you make. It's your choice to live that. I would never force it on them.
Right.
But even from like a young age, one of my younger daughters, she's 6, and she loves coming home and talking about religion, and I'm always open to it. Like I never push it, but I just, I welcome the conversation kind of thing.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. It's nice for them to come home and have that as well, right? Yeah.
Well, it's like you put them in Catholic school, so you'd hope that, that translates
to
them having some conversation about it or have questions about it. And it's natural questions. It's not, anything that I feel is being kind of pushed in any way. So I don't know, I enjoy it. Yeah. It's nice. It kind of allows me to relate to them from my childhood in a way too.
Right. Great. That's nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you're quite studious. You're doing well in school. So you graduate high school. Then what? Is there more school for you after your?
No. So this is actually, I guess, where my wild side kicked in.
Okay.
I actually had my oldest son at 18.
Okay.
So I went right into the workforce, and I've always been in the workforce. So there was no post-secondary for me until I was in my mid to late 20s, and then I went and got my realtor's license.
Okay.
And that's basically the only educational side after high school. But I definitely have the work experience that makes up for everything else that I might have missed out.
Right. Yeah.
Post-secondary, but yeah.
Yeah. No, nothing wrong with that. Right into the workforce. And kind of getting that experience right off the hop. That's fantastic.
Well, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. So I've been in sales for about 13 years.
Okay. Yeah. You always kind of had that sales mind. Like, was there kind of a pull to real estate for you? Was that something you wanted to do?
It was always something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I tried actually to get into it when my sons were much younger, but it's really hard to be working full-time and school full-time and then also be a mom, like a single mom. It was just a lot to balance at the time, and I couldn't make that work. The calendar didn't allow for that many hours.
Sure, yeah.
So it just wasn't something I could do. And then when I was a little bit older, I had the opportunity to actually take the time. I'm not going to lie, I kind of used COVID as a time because I was working at home. I was working from home, so I had the ability to kind of be flexible with my schedule. So I had more time available to me to actually do the course and study and everything.
Right.
So it was just before COVID, I made the decision to actually become a realtor finally and like go and get the course done. Prior to that, I wanted to do it about 10 years before that. But it just wasn't possible.
Right.
Then.
Yeah. Well, blessing in disguise, I suppose. With COVID. Yeah. I think a lot of people took advantage of that time to. Yeah. Okay. What do I really want to do?
Better
here?
yourself, and you know, just you have the flexibility and the ability to do so. Why not? And I think we all had a little extra free time on our hands too.
Right.
So.
Yeah, a little or a lot of free time.
A lot, you know.
Yeah. Well, kudos for taking advantage of that, and doing what you want to do. That's great. Yeah. So what? As a realtor, how does it work? Like, what areas do you serve? Like, are you limited to certain areas in Ontario, or are you licensed in Ontario or federally?
So I'm licensed through Ontario.
Okay.
For me personally, my rule for myself and for my clients, I don't want to take on anybody I can't service. So what I essentially do from a seller's perspective is, as long as I have access to the real estate board within that will cover your location. So if you're in Hamilton or Niagara or anything, I have that real estate board, so I can also help them out that way. If you're in Halton, Milton, Oakville, anything like that, all the way out to up in as far as Vaughan or North York, I can help anybody in that region because I make sure that I have the real estate board access to help. If I can't get the information to see what are the comparable houses in your neighborhood selling for, then I can't effectively give you a home evaluation.
Right.
So then at that point, I'm doing you a disservice by taking you on, and it would just be primarily for me, right? So that it's not helping my clients. I don't operate that way. So if I don't actually have the ability to give you the information needed to sell your home, I will refer you to somebody that I know that works those regions, as I feel like that's the best way to service a client. Like, I just make sure they're actually getting proper information and they have the full scope of everything. You can't genuinely service a client if you're not able to get that information for them.
Right. Yeah. Oh, good for you. I think it takes some integrity to be like, I might have to pass you along. I'm sorry. But no, it's good. So, sorry if this is a dumb question.
No,
I might be a dumb guy, but
absolutely not.
So with realtors, I guess do both like help the client buy and sell, or does some kind of focus more on one or the other? Or
some people focus. Some people have a preference. A lot of people have that preference of working with sellers because once you're contractually obligated to your realtor, then they know that transaction is going to close or go through essentially. I don't. I work with both buyers and sellers. Oftentimes, I will be completely honest, starting out, I worked with more buyers and sellers because you got to establish yourself. I love working with both. I find there's benefits to both sides of it. With the buyers just being there, first-time home buyers, for instance, being there and involved and included in that first-time purchase and the excitement and everything that surrounds it, or, somebody who's looking to downsize and helping them understand that, like, hey, you're going to be mortgage-free. Like, this is going to be wonderful for you because you don't need all that space. Like, who wants to clean all that much house? Like, nobody needs that.
Right, yeah.
So it's just, I love that process from a buyer's perspective as well. And I feel like there's plus sides to it. And for me, if you ever look or speak to any of my clients, they'll tell you that I become very personally connected to all my clients. It's not a transactional thing for me. And I've been told that by all my clients. It's like, you take it personally. Like, it's like you are so invested. It's almost like you're working with your mother or your father or your brother or your sister. And I'm like, well, that's what I want you to feel.
Right.
I don't ever want you to feel like I'm just here chalking up numbers and, that's not what it is. It's not just a business for me. It is my way of life. And I think, having a client feel that way and genuinely feeling that connection and that care and concern, that's the only way that you're going to trust me to have your back, right? Like, you could go pick any realtor out there and there's nothing necessarily that would defer you from anybody else. But if your client knows you can, they can trust you and you have their back, and you're not going to guide them down the wrong path or just be like, oh, just do it. Like, we need to close this deal. Just do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Then I feel like that's sort of the best thing I could possibly offer a client, is knowing that you can trust me. I'm not going to do anything to kind of lead you down the wrong pathway.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. So there's that integrity again. So you're not, it's not just about, making the deal.
Yeah.
You truly want like the best fit and,
absolutely.
kind of help them see that picture too. 'Cause sometimes I feel like even as a buyer, you might not even really know until you have certain conversations, right?
Absolutely.
And then,
especially first-time home buyers, you don't even know what to expect. You don't know, how much money should I have for lawyers prepared? How much money should I, what's a deposit quantity look like? Like, things like that, just little questions. If you don't have the answers to that, it's hard to know how to prepare and be ready to go and buy a house. So having somebody that, I will sit and I'll talk to you and I'll break down every little step along the way. And I've shown buyers, 40, 50 houses and they're like, I'm like, that's okay. Like, if
it's
you're
a big decision.
this is not a little decision. So if you're not ready to pull the trigger on any of these, okay, that's fine. We keep looking. Maybe your house comes on the market in a week from now, right? Like,
sure. Yeah.
I think that matters to a lot of realtors too, is the patience that, like, but when I'll be completely honest, when I do show houses, I tend to show multiple in a day. Because I feel like that helps buyers kind of stack each one against each other. Like, if you're looking at one today and then two tomorrow and then another one in like a week, it's hard to compare. Whereas if you look at 5 or 6 in a day, you're like, oh, I really like, house number 3. It stood out to me the most out of today. Okay, cool. Let's put that on like the top of the list.
Yeah. Probably helps you stay kind of in the mindset too of like,
for sure.
Right. As opposed to going back cold and being like, well, right.
So that's sort of how I like to do it, is like, I'll ask, hey, I know you have a couple houses you want to see, but can I add a couple to that for you? Just to kind of throw in the mix there. And sometimes they're like, yeah, sure, and as long as we have the time to do it, I make it work, and then it goes with me.
Yeah. Fantastic. Oh, that's great. So what else would you say about yourself that kind of helps you stand out? So, I mean, a bunch of realtors that are out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So,
everybody knows a realtor.
Yeah. 100%.
I feel like you either have a friend or family that is a realtor, and there's always this, pulling obligation to work with them.
Right.
I think what sets me apart is I work with a team and we offer full service. So I'm actually with the Royal LePage Meadowtown team. It's the Pinder Singh team under the Royal LePage Meadowtown banner.
Okay.
And when I say full service, I mean we do staging, we do all your marketing, we do like the booklets when people come for open houses. So from a seller's perspective, if you were looking to hire a stager, you're looking at like anywhere between $3,000 and $5,000 a month to have your house staged. You don't pay anything additional with me. It's all worked into that.
Right.
So,
Nice.
It's having that full service option. I think it really adds value to our clients from a seller's perspective. And then with the buyers, again, I think that, just having the approach of like, I'm here, I've got your back, I've got the information for you. My team lead, he's been a realtor, he's been a broker manager, like he's done so much in the world of real estate. So if I don't have the answer for you, I know I can get an answer for you within minutes. I just make a quick phone call, and he's seen not just his transactions, because being a broker manager, you're seeing everybody in that brokerage's transactions. So he's seen different problems come out, and he's seen how they resolve, and he knows the ins and outs of it. So just the wealth of knowledge, I think, from a buyer's perspective is that, you're sure about this decision.
Right.
And then from a seller's perspective, I really do believe, again, having that wealth of knowledge, but also knowing that you're not paying, there's no hidden secret fees, right? It's this one fee and that's it. Then obviously if you do both with us, we work with you on price points. So from a seller's perspective, we're not looking to gouge you and take all your money.
No, nice.
Yeah.
So it's great. So you have a team and you have those resources, right?
Absolutely.
And you're not, which is good too. I mean, I feel like if you're more independent, like maybe some people might feel like they need to be the know-it-all and say they have all the answers. You don't even have.
And sometimes
no one's
they
perfect.
don't.
They don't, right? Like,
you just don't.
Yeah. So yeah,
You have a resource to lean on, and then again, even if let's say I'm unable to do a showing or something, I can always kick into one of my guys that I work with, and they're more than happy to step in and help where possible. So just knowing that you have a whole team of people available to you, I think that tends to help kind of stand out against other realtors.
Yeah.
You get the experience of everybody on that team, right? Not just me.
Right. Yeah. That's great. Okay, so quick question about the market. Not that I pay like a whole lot of attention to it, but my wife's actually much better than I'm. Anytime we're out walking the dog, like she'll notice the sign that's up and
the for
like,
sale signs.
If that one's been up for a while and I wonder what that's going for, and she always has to look it up and everything. But it seems like for a while there, the signs were up there for a while.
Yes.
So now with the recent rate cuts from Bank of Canada moving forward, are we expecting that things are gonna? Is now kind of a better time to be in that? Yeah.
So what I can wholeheartedly say is, so every Monday our brokerage has a big meeting and we talk about basically the stats across the region. So we talk about like the regions that we service. So we have offices in Georgetown, Acton, Milton, and Mississauga. So all those areas is the areas that we typically focus on. And then obviously that goes out to Toronto as well, and then Hamilton and Niagara. We have the information. We just don't discuss it as deeply because we don't, I personally don't do a whole lot out that way, but some. But with regards to the market, like what we're noticing is typically at this time coming into the holidays, you're going to see a decline. And that's very typical of the market, but it's weird. Well, I don't want to say weird. It's indicative of the rate cuts and everything that we're seeing a spike. We're seeing a spike in showings. The days on market still is, the houses are still sitting on the market for a little bit. But I think that's because we're slowly going into a buyer's market because sellers are going to slowly remove their listings from the market going into the holidays. A lot of sellers don't want to deal with the process over the holidays.
Right.
So that's going to be less selection for buyers, which essentially is going to, so basically the rule of thumb is if you're under 3.5 to 4 weeks of inventory on the market, that makes it a buyer's market.
Okay.
So if there's less inventory, the buyers have the power.
Right.
If there's more inventory, the sellers have the power because the buyers, it's the inverse of that. I don't know if that makes sense. So if there's more inventory, there's more for the buyers to choose. So the buyers have more power.
Right. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was I'm saying this wrong. But yeah, so we're now seeing that basically they're taking listings down because coming into Christmas, some of the listings that are up right now, people are asking like, does it make sense to stay up? Should I pull it down? And we're actually telling them, well, we're seeing more activity now than we did last week. We're seeing more activity now than we did last month.
Right.
So if you're willing to keep it up, keep it up.
Yeah.
Because there's a better chance that other people are going to take their listings down, and you're going to be one of the few listings to choose from.
Right. Yeah. So especially this time of year, it's going to,
So you're going to see, like, you know, you're going to have more showings, you're going to have more activity, chances are you're going to sell. And wouldn't that be the best Christmas present ever?
Exactly.
Right? Like
your
house actually sells and everything's good and you're happy.
Yeah.
And then you just go into the new year happy, moving forward.
There you go.
Definitely seeing like an uptake in the market since the rate cuts, and it's just given people a little bit more buying power.
Right. Okay. So if you're selling and it's looking bleak, just hang in there because
it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. Yeah, it's going to be a good, busy, but a good holiday for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Cool. Very good. Okay. So, outside of work, what are you doing? I mean, I'm sure you're keeping busy. I'm sure
yes.
But how do you spend your days off if you have any?
So as a realtor, the rule of thumb is you don't have a day off.
Right.
But in my downtime, anytime that I'm not working, I am with my kids. Right. I have 4 kids, and it is a busy household. Okay. Their ages are between 3 and 15. So I've got the full scale of the emotions and the full scale of the, you know, the trouble and the back chat and the sass. And I mean, the sass comes from the 3-year-old more than anybody. But I think just all in all, my life revolves around them.
Right.
It's them and it's work. And I'm very close with my family. So I spend a lot of time at my parents' house. I think that's sort of, you know, my biggest balance is just between my kids and work and just making sure we're close, and, you know, I raise them close to my parents. I think that's really important for them.
Right.
Outside of that, we do, you know, we have our little activities and things like that we try to get around and doing. But at the moment, it's like a euphoric moment for me, but none of them are in any extracurriculars right at this moment. So it's like
weird little eye of the storm going on.
I'm like, I'm not running around every, like, you know, 3 days a week kind of thing in like different directions. So that'll be nice. But hopefully starting winter, the girls will be in gymnastics, and then my youngest son wants to try out jiu-jitsu. So
nice.
We're, you know, heading back into the storm, if you want to call it, but anything to kind of keep them happy. That's sort of my goal.
Yeah. Great. All right. So you're keeping busy enough then anyway.
Always.
All right.
We are always busy with running around between school and just activities. You know, they have homework or whatever, and that takes up the evening sometimes. And
right. Yeah. Not
getting
enough time
outside.
in the day.
No, there's never enough time in the day. I feel like I need, you know, 30 hours a day at least.
Right.
And not sleeping. Not sleeping hours.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, that's good. Great. So what would you say, what's next for you? I mean, obviously you're in the realtor game. You seem to be enjoying it.
Yes, very much.
You seem very passionate about what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So career-wise, is there anything you would look at after that, or just kind of keep doing what you're doing? Are you looking to expand, train people under you kind of thing, or?
I would say right now, my goal is to just establish myself like really firm in the real estate world. Like, you know, build enough of a rapport with my clients that I have a, you know, referral network that's working for me in itself. And then obviously you do your own lead generation and stuff like that. But I think right now for me, my goal is to just really establish myself in the real estate industry. I think because I'm a little bit newer to Georgetown, that's going to take a little bit of time to, you know, become somebody that's recognized in the local market.
Right.
And that typically to me makes the most sense is like you work where you live. Like, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to service your own community, service your own people?
Of course.
For many years, that was Mississauga for me. And I'm still very much active there because my kids go to school in Mississauga, my younger children. So I still service the Mississauga region very heavily because I'm very connected to the schools and the community events and things that happen there. Just looking to kind of build that connection in Georgetown as well. So I think just expanding my own reach and expanding, you know, my own network. I'm not necessarily looking to leave my team or, you know, start my own team up on my own just yet. Maybe one day.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, Pinder. But, you know, I think that's everybody's goal is like, you know, just sort of growing yourself. But I do believe wholeheartedly that you need a strong foundation before you can try to do that. It doesn't make sense to try to run upward before you've got, you know, a proper foundation. Just make sure you're running stable.
Right. Yeah. Got to get your feet wet first, right? Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that everything at the bottom and like the ground makes sense. And I've got all the practices in place and I've established myself before I try to
well,
take the name
sense.
anywhere.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and it seems like you're busy enough as it is, especially now you're running back and forth between Mississauga and Georgetown. You got a lot going on, right? So, yeah. Good. Any final thoughts for the day? If so, I don't know, maybe 6 people listening to this, right? to anyone who is going to see this or hear this, just any final thoughts, anything you might want to say to anybody?
I would say for me, the biggest thing that's come out of this year, and I'm going off of this year for me, is just when it feels like everything is kind of crumbling and falling apart. I think it has to fall apart before it can all come together in this beautiful picture. You have to fall apart completely before you can rebuild.
Sure.
And I think that, if it feels like it's falling apart for a reason. So just hold tight, hang in there. It absolutely will get better.
Nice. Yeah. Beautiful. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes there,
something like that.
Very nice. I love that. Yeah. Perfect. Great. I think that's a wrap on that.
Well,
that's
thank
good.
you so much.
Yeah, of course.
I'm really glad that you asked me to come out for this. This means a lot to me.
Yeah, no, you did great. Yeah, thanks for joining me. That was fantastic. I had fun.
Thank you.